The first, I'd like to say Happy New Year for 1988. And so then after, I think 2 months time, and Tashidalik for Tibetan New Year. Tene tat 다른 kapsula tat 당보 당공에 라브나 신기 또 tene 이시 tene 단다티 말한서 이신가 얘기 라테네 tene kushing ngon도 줄베게 안에 툴 디콜라 당부시에게 인티 마시베 ngon도라 tene 탐지에게 삼바 전주주도 셈게네 tene 담비추 세로나스.
As we have talked about yesterday, this morning His Eminence will briefly talk about how the experience of the five wisdom in essence is also the experience of the four kayas. So before we go into that, again, His Eminence would like to remind everyone to genuinely arouse the mind of bodhicitta or awakening, maintaining that mind as best as one can, and thus experiencing the teachings.
Tene ti indu tene tsawe ge ta ngaran cho ta tanda simjens jene ming dagbe ge shid khana dag yorsena tene nyawal lembe ge phungbunga bun dela simjens jene ta ngone ge ming ditel dag yores tene nyawal lembe be phungbunga bun dela tene ti phungbunga bun dela nyawal lenghen de soresena tene kazan sheba na shinge zo tene 당부 군시기 셈세야티 셈대당 tene 군시기 셈텔라 댐베기 tene 뇨몽베기 이 하고송아 뇨몽베 이 대당 tene 뇨몽베 이텔당 군시기 셈당 뇨몽베 이텔레 댐바 tene 넘버 쉐베기 초 텐조라 tene 답 텐조 탐진 뉘바텔라 tene simjens jane ming dagbares de yindu da ngaranzu tambe chö drubne nyamsulen ya de kangu go yorsena tene nyawal lembe ge phungbo ngabun dela tene daodun zinking ge kunshi ge samdang tene daga na shinki tanda nyui nyomumbe yi tedang number shebe ge cho tenzo tene 장구 요래 장시도 내 njurgu 요래 하고서가 njur네 tene njurwa tege ran신티 tene kusum gedani res titare tambutil labda
kusum gedani
kusiam da kusum 쓰는 데도
When we talk of sentient beings, sentient beings are characterized by what are the characteristics in that sense of sentient beings?
단다팅하란존 로아기 미감 사이기 릭세야지 릭지요르바 tetsam질다기요 말 단덴들 심제스 문에 밍따스 들다기요르바 베나당하란존 미레스리 미기 류부직다지기 요르바 감지 대단 tetsam지 마이바 kana tundrosedu tundruglu tetsamje mayem simjes dakshigi yulti phungbunga da tel nyawarn zembege tene yi da number shebasum tres
when we talk of sentient beings we are not talking just in terms of human beings or the particular form which is referred to as human form or human beings or animals or devas, when we talk of sentient beings, talking about all beings, and what is meant by sentient beings is correct. Sentient beings are characterized by coming together of the five skandhas. The five skandhas are clinging to the five skandhas as a whole, as one. So the consciousness thus through clinging, acknowledging sort of being the ownership of the skandhas, and so in that sense, the coming together of all the sense consciousnesses, mental consciousness, sense consciousness, therefore the alaya consciousness. And out of alaya consciousness, then the expression of mind or consciousness of conflicting emotions. And so characterized by all of these sense consciousnesses, and through that expression of conflicting emotion happening, or through clinging to the notion of self, to the accumulation of the skandhas or solidifying of the skandhas, and then from that conflicting mind of conflicting emotion arising. So characterized by these conditions, consciousness and clinging and conflicting emotions, various sense consciousnesses, that characterized by all of these is sentient being. And so the characteristic of sentient being. And transforming.
다 티터에 티르고 호텔에 바나 로와 심젠스 밍 다기어레스 대인도 다 nenjurse nenjur ta yishi la pa jurse yondu 풍봉 아버지 코란랑 바깥 버틀 고기요 말레스 풍봉 아버지 파 매버스 버틀 고기요 말레스 가르레스나 단다 풍봉 아버를 녀월렘베 주숨 단다 군시 남시다 녀몽바 당 남버시베 초지샤송아 대게 되네 풍봉 아를 다돈 징엔데 테레스 대송자 디 내줄 고기요 레스 디 내줄와 디 되네 이시레스.
So, characterized by these are sentient beings, and transforming of these characteristics, or seeing the nature of these characteristics is then transformation of sentient being in the sense of experience of enlightened mind or enlightened outlook. So when in seeing the nature of the skandhas or transforming our outlook in relationship to the skandhas, again does not mean that we have to dispose of the skandhas, alienate them, and then in their place something altogether different arising, bringing in something different. Through the combination of the basic consciousness or alaya consciousness and through the sort of the teaming of the sense consciousnesses as well as conflicting emotional mind or consciousness, through the team maneuvering of these, the clinging to the skandhas as self, as a permanent entity, existing entity. So it is transforming of these outlooks, and which is seeing the nature of the skandhas and nature of the skandhas as the three kayas or the four kayas, however we address it.
this is the Hindu, this one's da della tene, da tanda karsagore, kunshi namshi tang, tene nyomumbe yi tang, tene number shebe so tubo tenzu, tene da yonsu jangwam, ne gyurgugo yores. The Hindu, tene kunshi ki kanasa.
손산이
아니야.
났어.
네, 딱 차단 시해줘다. 그러봐. 아니 마도 말은 거는 시해야지 고치 되게 어려워. 듣는 신통의 직시하는 것도 되게 민도시. 하고서. 근데 내 결국은 요래스. 대손자 내 결국은 요도 대손자 다 군시기 남시 내 인주로 되라. 다 당부 예바지 시해발라 그냥 당부대 뒤뒤지 어쩌다 마스는 쟤네 안 예바지 시해나마도 디 고통이 놓아 대손자 군신 남신 내인주로 와텔라 딱 한지 면원답이 시스 그래스 대세고베 좀 센데 가르세나 근데 군시 되게 근데 단다 콘데 탐체기 배나 유른 짐바탕 근데 난기 시해발라 다든 짐바티 니가 대 군시게 지가 요레스 대손자 인도
나는 그래. 난 다도 짐바다.
직송의 유리 삼네 콘데 탐제기 제보당 다가난 신기 난기 셰바 탐제기 자원다버디 군시레스 군지시마세고 좀 센테레스 대손자 디 용수 다바텔라 멜론타비 이시스 전 민다그래 멜론타비 이시스 민다고베 좀 센데 가르세나 데네 베나 군시 남시 디 베나 멜론 라 야타바나 신지 멜론 라 야타바 이나 근데 멜론기 야타차도 멜론은 수년태도 간가 될 세부시라 통그레스 어때는 신기 단다 군신 넘버 셰베게 파 땡게 박자 된수 근데 파 다네 독스 제연도 근데 군시 코라랑 베드 매버 먹어봐 군시 코랑 어디 이실을 겨네 텔라 때네 근데 연대 탐지에다 마소나 깨토베기 디임바 손자 텔라 근데 군신 내인줄 와도 멜론답이 이시스 따고도 될다 그래스
when the alaya consciousness, or the basic ground consciousness becomes transformed, when we talk about alaya consciousness or ground consciousness, is ground or basis in the sense what creates, what develops all kinds of external reference points, and as well as what identifies the different sense consciousnesses, so identifying of self in that sense, and holding on to the notion of self and the identifying of the external reference points and therefore the reference point of others. And so in this way, creating objective reference points, subjective reference point, all together coming, the basis of that being the alaya consciousness. So alaya consciousness, or kunshi in Tibetan, ground for all. And the transformation of alaya consciousness, as explained, is then referred to as mirror-like wisdom. When one's outlook is from the point of view clarified outlook, then mirror-like wisdom in the sense that when there is, because of alaya consciousness, all kinds of identifying of entities or the reference points, then that is like becoming stained, becoming tainted. The reason for saying mirror-like is in itself saying a mirror that is not tainted, that is not stained. And the image or outlook or undistorted outlook could manifest.
군신 디 마다베 내갑솔 군신 남시스 맹단에 텔라데네 숭진 탐체기 초고요레스 디네 유로연드 딱 군시 이시스제네 텔라 군시 이시스나레 멜론타비 이시스제네 맹다연드 데네 군시 텔레 베나 멜론라 숭니 샤르와 나신키 베나 이시 젠다 탐체 데네 베나 군시 멜론타비 이시티 암 군시기 네 유로와 텔라데네 개벌 제바탕 데네 마체베 디코라라나 최주고스 밍다버레스 메논다비 이시티 디 란신디 최주고레스 데손자 데네 최주고 텔레 롱주 조베고도 주베고 데네 베나 초고요레 데손자 메논다비 이시스디 메논텔 암 군시 텔레 데네 이시 숨디 야 게토바당 데네 마체베 롱주 조베고도 주베고 대양 텔레 초토바
군시들 이시숨
네, 군시디 내 먼저베 값솔라 군시 남시스진 송진 탐제게 자와 다 군시디 내 먼저베 값솔라 데네 군시디 메노다비 이시 차기요레 디세고베 좀텐데 가능스나 텔라 때네 이시 탐제 이시 신 숨부요르바 소소르도 보다 냠니 이시데 제루 이시데 탐제 텔라 때네 깨토바 데네 마체 베게 데네 론주 도보 아 춘이시 메다 이시 당부 그냥 당부도 시드시다 소소를 또베 이시다 자와주베 이시다 되는 다가난 신기 냠니기 이시 텔라 때네 멜론을 순이 초와난 신기 이시 탐제야 게토바 임바 손자 텔라 때네 멜론다베 이시스잖아 따버레스
So
디초주고레스다
when the expression of consciousness, when the outlook or the expression of consciousness is from the point of view of holding on to external reference points as well as internal or subjective a reference point, and so therefore, being the source, the consciousness being the source of all confusion, therefore ground for all consciousness, alaya consciousness. And when, from the point of view of enlightened outlook, or the this outlook of reference point, or holding on to reference point, is transformed, then it's referred to either as mirror-like wisdom or alaya wisdom. In that, so again, the wisdom that is ground for all wisdom, in that sense. And the mirror-like wisdom is Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya and mirror-like wisdom essentially meaning the same. And when we talk in terms of just the four wisdom, then the three wisdom arising from the mirror-like wisdom, the three other wisdom arising from the mirror-like wisdom, and discerning or discriminating wisdom, wisdom of equanimity, and all-accomplishing wisdom, that these three arising from mirror-like wisdom, which is that the alaya consciousness being transformed, meaning the nature of the mind can experience of mirror-like wisdom is the experience of nature of mind, and therefore having insight into the nature of things as they are, or as it is, and therefore like reflection of objects as they are in an untainted, unstained mirror.
Pena tak kandis la sonda melon da bi shi de chu ko res ba
chu ko res de sum chu ko ne tene melon yi shen tene di shi sum bo sha ge yoris
je da long ju zo ko da zhu gu ten zu na long ju zo ko da zhu gu ten zu
yi shi sum di sha de sum da di la ju ma cha
oh ya tene ni ba de nyam ni shi si res nyambani 기시 가라고다
숨네 tisum다 샤기오스 나차
그래 다티 들 멜론다 비시 스타틀 쓰기요라 간지 다 니바데 nyambani 기시 쓰기요라 냠니시 냠니 이시세야데 칸세게 가르레서는 냠니 이시데 마다베네 갑술라 데네 군신 넘버 셰바 텔라 테네 뇨몽베 이티 세야드레스 뇨몽베 이세야데 간데레서나 테네 베나 다메발라 테네 다도 따와 당 테네 베나 다 나란주 난고 베세게 난기 셰바 다도 셰바이나 다도 따와도 다도 몽바다 달라 착바다 다 텐데게 난세게 야망부치 셔게요레 가이나 메나 테네 다 단다 뇨몽베 이스도 뇨몽바다 제바 간지 다 다도 짐바 가이바텔라 뇨몽베 이스게요레 대송자 대라 세게요레 테네 되게 테네 냠보텔라 강고고요레사나 테네 냠바니 단다티 나란소 냠니기시 딩원도 추르바데 냠니이시 레스요레 데 냠니이시세도 콘데 기초 탐제 테네 타니라 말호와 테네 다조 동니라 소버곰바탕 테네 다가나 신기 세신 냠바니도 곰베게 곰발라 테네 tene 대답이 그 다도 따웨기 tene nzimbati chorne tingondo chobatela nyabani jisi 그랬어.
이시 숨티 멜롱기신 샤기 요르신 송르바. 아니 드니야 장 님비니 이시 양 카가
샤르게 요르스가 뭐 샤르웨기 땡치게 요르.
나
샤르웨기 땡치게 요르. 데스도 데르다는 거로 멜론다비 이시 샤르게 요르스는 강가 제마고 이제 멜론 이시네 베트 코라 샤르데 버텐데 말다.
맞죠.
멜론다비 이시 세고베 좀 센티 군실 땡네 디용고 요르바. 데송자 다 베네 이시 현대 시부 소소소 셰연데 베나 멜론다비 이시 세고베 좀 센티 이시 디 땡치게 요르 숨게웨 땡치게 요르. 랑시게 게가 말바. 데송자 다 니반냠니 이시 디 던다데 테레스.
드니야 단다 두고도 롱고도 진거. 다나
다 멜론다비 이시디 다찬 뒤뒤 하 건는잖아 멜론다비 이시디 추구래 냠니 이시도 소도 이시도 롱구래 자루 이시도 추구래 하고서와 아니 추이 이시디 되는 이시 순간 찍도 되바디 뭐니 그거래 다 단다 텐데래.
So the experience of the mirror-like wisdom gives rise to or become the cause for the arising. What was it? No, Michelle? No. What was wrong? Huh? And you shook your head so much, I was wondering. So, the cause for the arising, the experience of the mirror-like wisdom causes the arising of the three other wisdom, or three other wisdom, also meaning the two kayas of Sambhoga Kaya and the Nirmana Kaya. And the Kandechila Karacharin Kuni Longulaya Karit Karinis. Sort of Yishida.
냠니 이시다 소도 이시도 롱구 자루 이시도 추고.
So then, because the reason for saying mirror-like wisdom is that it becomes the cause for arising of the other three wisdom, or that just as out of Dharmakaya arises, or the appearance appearing the Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya. So. And specifically speaking, the experience of the wisdom of equanimity is the transformation of the consciousness of conflicting emotions. And transformation of alaya consciousness is mirror-like wisdom. Transformation of the consciousness of the mind of conflicting emotions. And I hope the difference, as we have talked about, just alaya consciousness in the context of the source for all confusion, the source for all reference points and labeling, and so the creating of existence. And consciousness of conflicting emotion is, from the point of the very cause of developing reference point is ignorance, and so conflicting emotional pattern in that sense. And then out of that, not only there is a reference point, but clinging to the reference point out of aversion, out of attachment, so the consciousness is then operating through the outlook of conflicting emotionalities, and or the dualism in that sense, and the heightening of dualistic outlook. And transformation of that is the wisdom of equanimity. And there were the one's dualism in terms of separation of samsara and nirvana, and one then beginning to have insight into the natural inseparability, the unconditioned inseparability of samsara and nirvana, and equanimity in that.
Bena chashana ngaranzu tanda di chanchu sembe ge lam, tikpa sembe ge lam ge nekap sula, tene dakshin nyamba nyi gomba, di lam di zo di kaare sena, di nyamnyi yishi di ngondu churbe ge chirdula, tene dakshin nyamba nyi gomya di res, kaare sena nyomungbe yi tege daadu tani, tene tege, tene kunshin nambar sheba tila pakcha shuk cheru madun ro tuku yo maare, desonza yindu, tene ngaranzo 택센베게 tene 동len komya tang tene dakshin nyamni komya tenzuke 간치게 요르스나 tene 뇽문베게 이디 슉총은 ro네 하고송아 식총은 ro와텔라 tene 타르두긴 제부디 tene 시신 냠바니도 또네 tene 냠니 이시도 건도 줄베게 된다레스.
For instance, in the on the Bodhisattva path, when we talk about cultivating, developing through the training of the mind, developing the mind of equality, the equality of one and others, and cultivating that mind is towards the development of wisdom of equanimity, or the clarifying the mind of the dualistic mind of conflicting emotions, obscured by conflicting emotions. Therefore, it's a very dualistic mind, a dualistic consciousness. And just as the mirror-like wisdom corresponds to Dharmakaya, the discriminating wisdom, or the wisdom of discriminating awareness, and the wisdom of equanimity corresponds to Dharmakaya, as Sambhogakaya, and all accomplishing wisdom thus corresponds to Nirmanakaya.
야, tene 다 숨바티 소술독베 이시 세야들이. tene 소술독베 이시 세야티 숨바 소독베 이시. 소술독베 이시 세야티 조티다 단다 ngaransu 뇽문베기 이 암다 군시텔라 때네 tene 다 단다 ngaransu 네 ngö버레 네 캉바레 네 삼베기 다 남도 코란 디스게 요레 디손자 디레 조와 가인바드 최 탐제기 내로 만데바 사와라 똑바 사와라 셰바텔라 소소 똑베 이시스잖아 딱주디 텔다게 요레 다 간지 뒤준도 네 쪽제레 네 캉바레 삼베기 짐바지 요르바 드니 디 촐로드 드니 최 탐제기 내로 만데바 사와라 양탁바 똑바텔라 소소 똑베 이시스잖아 딱주디 텔다게 요레 다 디칸데스 전에 곰네 원도 줄고고 요르세나 데네 ngaranzo chö 탐제 멜람다 주마다 보임베게 땡엔젠라 데네 데네 소소르도 베이시 등 원도 줄고고 요소다.
And
대남도 되게 강한 듭게 요르세나 단다 ngaranzo 캐사 chö타 단다 chö지 dom시기 된데 똑발라 듭게 요바 손자 데네 텐조 데네 양탁베 셰럽케 데네 살고고 여러 양탁베 셰럽데 칸레스나 저 탐제 멜람다 주마다보다 란신 마조바 저 탐제 소소 랑고 코랑게 마조바 소소 똑바텔라 소소 똑베 이시스 전에 됐어요. 그래서
the antidote for as we have talked about, the obscuration of conceptual reality. That is, right now we have fixed notions about objects, that not only are they in material forms, in solid material forms, but that each one is a separate something, such as something being specifically a table as opposed to something else being specifically different objects than a table. And so we have, out of confusion, imposed the conceptual reality. The reality exists as far as our conceptually imposing a specific reality, bringing it out as a specific entity, and then also being that reality that we impose on it. And the antidote, thus, for this conceptual labeling or conceptual reality is discerning wisdom, wisdom of discernment, which means instead of that what has been put together, instead of components of many things that have come together, labeling them and holding on to them as one something, sort of lumped up in that sense, that one is able to see things from the point of view of their nature. And their nature is that whatever seems existing as one, as a group, or however, in essence lacks true existence. And again, we have talked this in connection with the 4 seals of the Dharma. Because of the fact that all compounded phenomena are impermanent. So, seemingly real and existing, but nature is impermanent. And they don't exist the way we conceptually rely on them as existing that way, trusting that they exist that way. And so, discerning wisdom, seeing as they are without getting mixed up in the sense of putting things together and thinking that's what it is. That's what their nature is. And so having the wisdom into the nature of things, point of view, discerning wisdom. And as far as the path toward developing and the wisdom of discernment is then through understanding and through contemplating how nature phenomena is like dream, and how they're like a magical trick show, that the reality of it exists as far as simply our mind being tricked by our confused outlook, and or from the point of view how all compounded things are in essence impermanent. All compounded things are impermanent. So through this means, then developing such wisdom.
다 당신 냠바니 콘데 냠바니 공발라 때네 되는 로와심진 탐지기 다 론주 조그세고 베좀선 로와심진 탐지기 되는 강라 강돌게 메바다 tenzu 강가 만데바 되네 사워 캠발라 때네 되네 냠바니기 이실 당 되네 소소토베 이실 세두 되네 대시 만데바 캠바 대신도 되네 최 탐지기 내로 되네 소스 반은 만데바르 양탁바르 싸워 세연도 대단 충배게 되네 담배 송 담배 송 여러봐 최 텐주 창마 되네 가서 올해 두르제게 로다 메바다 삼발라 되네 송토바 최 탐제게 내로 양탁바 쓱발라 되네 될라 되네 다 단다티 이시티 니라 롱구스 전에 샤고비 좀 센터레스
이미티 신체기
로다 메바 코나
만노바 시고티
마노바 양탁바 캠바
엔 텔레야 탑 만노바 템바티
소소동베 이시 최 탐제게 내로 만데버서 도바
So these two wisdom, the wisdom of equanimity and the wisdom of discernment, are also known as Sambhogakaya, or corresponds to Sambhogakaya. In that, when we talk of Sambhogakaya, is the spontaneous activity, Buddha activity, and because of the wisdom of equanimity, then having insight, having the wisdom into the not only the nature of mind, but also in terms of the capabilities and the capacities of minds of beings. Unconfused, not mixed up, specific insight into the different receptivity and aptitude in terms of the sort of the vessels, so to speak. And that having insight into, then because of that, the wisdom of discernment in connection with that is on the basis of having that understanding of the minds of people, or at what level or what stage the minds of people, beings operating, then appropriate means, a spontaneous manifestation or the generating of the means, the teachings that is appropriate to the kind of mental capacity, the kind of mental receptivity. So in this way, wisdom of discernment.
텐데스레 테네 다시바티 테네 자와투베 이시스 제네스기요레 자와투베 이시티 조다 아란초 공예기 셰바 넘버 셰베기 초 주디 용수 타바들 자와투베 이시스 타브레 데 칸데스레세나 베나 사탕부 통람 테네 기 네갑술라
카렐라 자와투비 이시소
고가이기 넘버 셰바 요르바 아다 미그 넘버 셰바타 넘버 셰베 초 주지 요르바 디네 뉴르와미 용수 타바텔라 자와투베 이시스 타브레 데 칸데스레세나 테네 최탐 통람게 네갑술라 최탐제기 테네 네루 마투바란시 덴버 똑바르바 디또 똑바다 냠툴라 테네 단자 베나 사탕분저버질레 예나 테네 연텐자다 중니스제네 토부요레 베나 연텐자다 중니티 테네 상제 갸레 테네 계지지로 최년 토바다 신감 갸라 계지지 그 드르바다 테네 다가나 신기 테네
자드니 슈송이 자소
연텐자다 중니스제네 용구요르바
자드 중니
텐데 야야체베지기 중니 용구요르바 테네 Tene matsebeke, tene bena truba, jatamba keji chiglan yetuba la soba, teta buki, tene yonteng samji mechaba jata tende mangbu, tene ngondu churgu yores. Te ngondu churtuba ti kandes tene yungu yoresana, handa miki number sheba ne, tene number shebe tso chude ne njuru yondu, tene teegi gone, tene sukta chero la sokba ta tambe chyo nyemba tang, shen la truba nyeba ta tenzu ganga ge, tene tetabu, tene stakasura simjingan rowe tensena ya re, tene sanje ge gongpa drum nube ge chawa nuba de tela tene chubu yo res. Te sonda tela tene chawa chubu ishes, tene seko ya jumsenti tunda tere.
Karik sagang tobe kabla te yungors.
Tonam ki nelu to yondu, tene tela tene, tene miki number tene tujun rabuji na ngaranzi miki number sheba tege sukchik mato tong tugu yo marwa. Ta te tonam ge kapsula chunyi de tuyon to yondu, tene tela tene, tene ta miki number sheba tene ta njuru yons churu yondu, tene sanje ja tujik dun jar toba yungu yo. Tene nawe number sheba tene njuru yondu, tene sanje jal le, tene kechi chiki chö nyen toba yungu yo. Tendes ne njuru ne, tene chawa chube yeshi sedu, ta kharesana simjen gen rowe tuyon che toba ta, tene rani ki, tene chunyi ki tuyon to toba ki chawa chubal, tene chawa chube yeshi.
Yonde yara junyin tiya sat tangbo kabla ya.
Saj tangbo kapsu yungu. Nibe kapsu la, tekin dablo chinta, sachuba kat kiri yor ba.
The fourth wisdom, the wisdom of all accomplishing or all accomplishments is or also the action fulfilling wisdom, known as this is the transforming is the antidote for transforming of the sense consciousness, the mental, and so the six consciousnesses, transforming of it, or from a transformed point of view, then is wisdom, all-accomplishing wisdom. And this means, in the case of someone, for instance, who has experienced the realization of the path of seeing from the point of view of the path, the experience of the path of seeing corresponds to the experience of the first bhumi of bodhisattva. And with the experience of the first bhumi of bodhisattva is the development of wisdom that fulfills a great many actions simultaneously. And it's for instance, right now, with our sense consciousness of seeing, that we can see only one object, seen properly, one object at a time. And the consciousness through the sense of seeing, so sense consciousness of seeing, and we can listen to one something at a time, to listen and hear in that sense. But when one has experienced the path of seeing, or the first bhumi of bodhisattva, at that time being able to hear 100 teachings at the same time and being able to see and distinctly that 100 being in the presence instead of 100 Buddhas at the same time. So like this,
Pena tingin zigyala tene keji chigla nyombar jo tubata. Tene shingam jala tuba keji chigla ye tubata. Tende ke tone yonde gyara chungi.
being able to manifest 100 emanations at the same time, receiving, for instance, receiving teachings in 100 different Buddha fields at the same time, or being in 100 different meditative states at the same time. So 12 such distinguishing fulfillment or action fulfilling wisdom in that sense. 12. So it's 100 of them taking at the same time, and 12 of such. So 100 times 12. And then when you move to another bodhisattva bhumi, then
Dapchik.
And
Sanye
then-
pena sanye ban jabuchi na tongta chungi. Tene sa sumba la sanye ba la tongta chungi. Kya chungi de sa thangbo la raba. Sanye ba la tongta chungi. Dapchik raba ta. Tene taga na shingi ta tendes chene sa chup hardo la. Tene pena yonde tene kongpe den rugu yo res.
Tongda chunyi, tong tende chig yang chunyi, right? Tong, shengam tong chig ya ting ma chig,
Ye tuba.
So every time you move to one more bodhisattva bhumi, and it's doubling that. So in going to this next bodhisattva bhumi, then 1,000 times 12, being in the 1,000 Buddha field at the same time, being in 1,000 meditative state at the same time, and so forth, and 12 of such.
Pena ta sa chube ke kasur shingam chewa thang me ba la. Tene teta bon ye gom tuba che tuba ta sa chube ke sa ju chanju samba sidu ta yonde tendu she yo ba.
And then, at the stage of the 10th bhumi of the bodhisattvas, and then inconceivable Buddha fields, inconceivable meditative state, and so that this wisdom of being able to fulfill such actions at the same time, then wisdom, all accomplishing wisdom in that sense, and the transforming of being caught up in the identifying of the sense consciousnesses, sort of breaking through.
How tendes re til ten ta fon za ta dorna. Tene teta bi ki yenden tinsul tene simjing tene ki simje pa do me ba la. Tene ten bana drup to ba yin ba tene chawa trube ki yishis. Tene stagiyores. Tene ti ta zo tene trugures. Trubeko. Teta bi ki tene simjing control twenty bana trugukul tene trubeko yitsudun zege yore. Tene trubeko seya de tachikdo ki tene tanda ngaran zu miigi. Tene lula tene pe goyan rabu ben zogu sanji chom den rabu ta taba trugo tene zamje mayimba. Tene kora ben simje kangala kanduru ki tone tene rowe tene zeba tele trugo sijene dona desiga yes.
So the all accomplishing wisdom, or action fulfilling wisdom,
Benata
is
chaksala tena 작살을 때바이나 되는 조구선이 좀 된데다 본자바 중립 술되네 패봐 되네 배나 대마인 발이나 되는 심젠다 저다다 담멘다기 주백 술된 패바데 주구레스
All accomplishing wisdom is nirmanakaya, or corresponds to nirmanakaya, and all accomplishing wisdom are nirmanakaya in the sense that as someone who has tremendous development of tremendous insight or realization, being able to further one's own realization greatly, as well as extending and inconceivable benefit towards others, towards beings, and all accomplishing in that sense, benefiting beings. When we talk of nirmanakayas, or in Tibetan tulku, is not simply referred to a human incarnation or a human being, only in a human form in that sense. And so it's not just a reference made to Shakyamuni Buddha, for instance, as a nirmanakaya. And in accordance with the aptitudes and needs of beings, and so emanating or appearing in any form necessary as any being, in a very pure form, that outlook that we can recognize is also in a pure form, thus emanating in a pure form and in a historical way, such as Shakyamuni Buddha with the historical events of the 12 stages in the life of the Buddha, Nirmanakaya, in that way. Or in the form of human beings without the 12 stages, as in the case of Shakyamuni Buddha, and then in the form of animals, meaning the domesticated, or that undomesticated, whatever, that in whatever form, in essence, in the form of whatever being, the sentient beings could benefit most.
Oh, this rate, this Hindu, ta tela chikuti ta zo tanangaran zu ishi shis chene tene tel sigi yores.
Yes.
Tene ta dorna ta dor dubade khane sena kunshi namshi ne njurwa tela tene chuku tene yi kunshi tela nebege yi ne njurwa tela longu tene tanda te kunshi ne njurwa tela kunshi namshi ne njurwa tela chuku tene yi kunshi tela nebe nyomubege yi la soba ne njurwa tela longu tene tanda ngobo la soba tanda te nde re dan de mare sambe gan zimbar chebege number cheba de ne njurwa tela chukus chene ta tanda ndona teles yawa res ti
The red the Marisambik. Then Namshi Tela.
number cheba ne njurwa tela chuku ta tanda se re namdo da namshi ta namdo da namshi ki chigi yorba
Nabati.
다 나버도 동시나 말해서 최이시들
So, in essence, or in short, the transforming of alaya consciousness is Dharmakaya, and the transforming of the mind, the consciousness of conflicting emotions arising from alaya consciousness, that is Sambhogakaya. And then the
ane yulang ngosun jubbe ke number sheba de nen jurwa bena mig number sheba tige sugla ngosun jinge yorwa ngosun jugo yorwa tene oti number sheba nen jurwa te la jugo.
Then the transformation of the consciousnesses, all the sense consciousnesses, for instance, that through the sense consciousness of seeing form, identifying with that form, thus holding on to that form conceptually, thus forming reality of that form. And so transformation of this conceptual reality, or thus the sense consciousnesses through which we form a conceptual reality, transformation of that, Nirmanakaya.
Oh yeah, that was nice. No. Tene ngaba toshes change.
Right. Then His Eminence will talk about the fifth, among the five wisdoms, the fifth one this afternoon. Questions, please.
What the difference between the kunshi and the kunshi
제단게 구이시 세야티 테레스 구이시스 전에 명딱 받아 강하나 딱 버렸으나 콘데 니기 탐제기 군지시마 임베서서 구이시스 딱 버렸어 남시스 딱고야 좀 센데 강하랬으나 텔라 때네 때네 콘데 니기 시마 임바 텔 때네 때네 박차 군시딩도 박차샤 박차도 요연도 때네 넘버 쉐바 탐제 담면도 된도 막고 샤르 연구 군실 때네 초고요래 텔 때네 군시 남시스 명딱 버렸어 이네 된다 제 버렸어 군시스 당부 제단 그 군시스 해야지 여러분
군시 남시 매월 군시 세운지 말봐.
아
남시 매월 군시 지우지 말봐.
말말 다 당부 제단 그 군시스 명다고 베준데 콘데니를 때네 군시스 딱 버렸어 군시 남시스 딱고 베준데 남시 탐제 그 자와 임바 가서를 박차를 때네 남시 된도 라면도 초고요 손서 텔 된다 버렸어 이네 된다 제 버렸어 군시 탐제기 명대 되래
Essentially, alaya kunshi, alaya consciousness, kunshi namshi, essentially means the same. Essentially means the same. But when we talk separately, what distinguishes is in terms of our understanding, that is, kunshi, which means the ground for all, literally, and is that when the mind or the consciousness is the basis for samsara and nirvana. From that point of view, kunshi. And being the basis for samsara and nirvana, which is to say, the basis for
출백이 남도 세월바 출백이 똑바디 계획 시임바 손자 군신 남시스다
basis, and also all the thoughts of confusion, all the erroneous or misconceptions rather arising from that being also kunshi, the basis in that sense. Now, then when there is the accumulating of mental patterns through involvement in conflicting emotionalities or emotions, then that the habit of these is accumulated in the alaya, and the reoccurring of that, because this becomes strengthened, reoccurring further conflicting emotions, therefore furthering of the habitual pattern, that an activity level, then alaya consciousness, referred to as alaya consciousness.
그래. 임베라고. 야, 나.
Is it correct to note a twofold aspect to discriminating wisdom? First, the discrimination of the unreality of phenomena, their not true existence, but then also a discrimination that sees distinctiveness, the real distinctiveness that exists among things.
What was it?
The second, it seems like discrimination is talked of in two ways. One, to see through phenomena of not true existence, correctness, I guess. But then there's a second one where it doesn't all become a milkshake. You know, the various capacities and so on.
Yes.
Is that a twofold aspect to discriminating wisdom?
디스드.
And the sodo kishi, said the Talea Kasuri, Evan Masuni, your races. Jigti Tani, the Nelo country will come in, but Titani. Jidan Yung Tomati. Yeah.
되네.
Tini Shambati, Tini young so get the Nizu can't come in by Yanti. Benanta Council Kagamande. I tended to go to color nation. She said, Tatil then go to the tenant remnant.
간데스.
When a Gita council is Tanda, some temperature than kind of that tongue. Then a range Maduba tongue, then sort of she. She Maduba tongue.
되네.
Tenian come on somebody can do, but Tian Sosa Manorba tongue. Ranging kind of tongue.
랑시 마주발라 때네. 랑시 마주바이 바토발라 때네. 저 탐지기 내루 탐지 고랑 내루데 만데버 싸와 통하더래. 랑시 마주발라 때네. 대답이긴 전에 저 탐지 만데버 싸와 통도በት 랑시 마주발라 때네 도토비요래. 랑시 저 탐지기 내루 만데버 싸와도 가하나 되는 통투고요랬으나.
만제부터.
가하나 되는 통투고요랬으나. 근데 뭐랑시 마주바 이바 똑발라 때네 통투고요랬어. 아,
the Kotelia can the Evan the Nin was in shoes. So do you said,
때 여인이 간스러고. 예, 여인이 처음에도.
Nin the chick that in Move Nilo kind, but Tonga chick tongue.
되네.
Chin and then so some man there, but Tonga chick.
ngobenelo 강이 바 통화들 소소만데 바 통화세.
Seeing the nature of things is seeing the distinct nature of things.
베나 만데바 사와 통세야티 쪽지 베나 쪽지 인데다 빼선 데니 바루라 제민도 카가레스 통화 딘데 인데 만데바 통 시기요 말레. 베나 단다 ngaran주 강세게 요레서는 만데바 사와 통화세야티 베나 뉘제 탐제 뉘제발레 때네 총아레. 근데 코랑 오게 베나 독도직을 주바요 말레스기요 봐. 대손자 랑신 마주바 통화테 강이 메텔라 저 탐제게 내로 만들어서 통화 스텔레 로스 주버지게 아예요.
내로 통화되는 만들어 통화. Seeing the nature of things or seeing the distinct nature of things is not separate. It's same. Because you see the nature of things, therefore you see the distinct nature of things. For instance, it's not saying
베나 베자 텐줄라 데마티가 지오르 텐줄 만데바 소소소소 여발 때네 만데바 사와 통스기요 말에.
and it's not saying that you see the table and the text separately. That's not distinct, not in that sense. And in the text, there are so many pages and folios, and that you are aware of. You see that there are so many pages, and that is not what is meant by seeing distinctly, sort of separately. Is table or book or whatever it is, our general reaction, impulse, the reaction is that it is a one entity, something. A table as one, as opposed to a book another. And not only having the intellectual understanding, but experience that in nature these lack true existence. This seemingly one solid entity lacks the truth of that entity. It is because of number of cause and conditions and components coming together, appearing in that way.
Bena tanda ngaran 속에 다 tanda ndordina tiri tanda ngaran 속에 bena 동반이 레 시드 초 탐지란시 마주바 레 시드 rigba tamjil tene pa re madu ngosu tidabu kan tontogu mindu was tene sosor tobe 시세야티 tene bena tin 신도 만데바 싸워 통한들 this.
So right now, our understanding of emptiness, maybe our the experience of emptiness goes as far as having some intellectual idea of what emptiness is, so conceptual idea. And when we talk about the discriminating wisdom or discerning wisdom, talking about having the experience of emptiness. And you are able to, and your view is based on the experience of emptiness nature. And so, discerning wisdom in the sense you have wisdom in into the nature of things, and so that nature of things is not so many things put together and that being one real something. You see, nature of things is that this seemingly real thing, if you have a sort of distinct insight into it, then they lack true existence. Even the components lack true existence, not only the actual, apparent entity or the object, but the components that make them up also lacks true existence. So you have insight into the lacking true existence of the components too, not only the objects, but the components.
During practice, when you're practicing, whether that be in drill or whatever the practice is, if you have a feeling of yearning and confusion of wretchedness of the four reminders come up at once, how do you, on the spot, transform those feelings into wisdom, rather than pushing them away or becoming overwhelmed? How do you transform that into bodhicitta mind on the spot?
This to do. Nyamnen chebe kapsula.
Nyamnen chebe on the tangduk deba yirwan. Tirhang tini tanda sorry loto ta samlo yorwa tesu tini nyamdoliya shar tulchin tig ta tansu sem sunt tespa ko begosen ya tendes chin re kablas ta khande chego ne han ma hon ya te kabla tenin ti tharang ya tenin ti kansur ta lam
동이 닝제가 라면 텐델 컨디션 잘 거고 그랬을
다난 serve. 다난 serve.
다나스
다 전염내 제고 300 매버 serve.
땅땅땅데 당와도 되봤으니 요런 티 테닌 탄다 다 다바 매바 티당 What was the confusion part of it? When you have the four, what it was four thoughts?
In a moment of practice, you have some sort of feeling of wretchedness that comes up along with the feeling of yearning for the teacher's mind or yearning for enlightened mind, rather than, it seems I often get overwhelmed by that feeling
And what was in the fourth?
the emotionalism, whereas I'm sure there's an opposite side to that emotion that's coming
And
up.
what you said in the four thoughts in connection with that? What was it?
How do you transform the feeling of wretchedness that comes from the force into liberty of mind? Instead of becoming overwhelmed by that whole samsara existence that you realize that you're in, how do you transform it?
Okay. That's Tani tanda nyamne dang the kablas ne kablas rwa tani ta but ta sanji jena jimarong sambachta tani jikta sosul me tani tukt tani teda tani mebam tani jik tuk ban kai bat tona ta jimarong samne tende tani deba meba shukchembo yeba kablas rwa samsam dik tani habla ta jik chora mangbo yong te tani chora ngania ta jik lo phamban da khang na ta yong khandin da yong na ti peje ti ngang shon de go ji mare se mi da ti ngang na ma sho ba kan tang ko ji yang te me ma sha ba jik te chane en ta lo do te ne che da sam tang ko ba lo lo ta tang ti ti ne ta na jik so so te ne nga da to ba te yu ba ta te ne pe ta chune jik sam be te ne ta ten je cha go me ti til ten ta ta ne be to korwal cham ta ta ne khong long san ne me ba sam ne be ti lo ti ya nar te be kab ya tin ya te ya jam chup kisem chol kan de tang go na sen sa ti ko pa nimbo lo do nimbo to stand fan ya ma test chik so so do shi ji ma sil ya sam ne re no men do chi
다 마시제단 게 드레스 당보 드네 로도기 디 베나 란 단다 라닝보면도 삼야기 디 로도 쓰게요 말레스 로도 세야디 단다 디 코로와라 단다 가란소 코로와텔라 코로에게 랑신들 닝보메바 제 하고 고야가 단다 레마도 소소 베나 두분도 소소 강야 펜토그면도 삼백에 되네 심슈 쉬어야 될라 되네 고와를 로도방 고와 님부메가 통스티스가 말이스 디손자 디니레스 데 되네 데지 인도 되네 다 고와를 님부메가 하코드 되네 델레 되네 타로에게 탑디 되네 다 냠네 강이나 제야 되겠다 어떻게 고요 알았어 되네 찍도 강인 거다 뭐 라메기 되다 독스체연도 대단해 야구를 성문도 야구를
그냥 서로 답변은 ben당 거다 간 리고 지르반 지금
대손자래 되는 조 개체슈드 라면다 투이 예매도 세는 야구면도스 됐어야지만
when applying the four thoughts, the four reminders, the four thoughts, and is the belief that one has in samsara, no, the goodness of samsara, or the reliability of samsara, the trustworthiness, whatever it is, the belief in the reality of samsara that is the belief that one held, one has held, one holds, and that belief in the reality lacks meaning. And the belief in the meaningfulness of it is futile. Futility of samsara in that sense. So it is not negating of anything, just understanding the futility of the belief in the trustworthiness or the reliability that one has of samsara. And so that is how you apply the 4 reminders. It is not, when we talk about futility or meaninglessness, it is not in connection with like to feel how unworthy or how meaningless your life is, or you are, how like how futile your efforts are, or whatever in that way. It is in connection with the belief that you have, and just trying to wake up from that belief that is, in essence, full of futility, but in your own thinking and what you have been holding as being meaningful and real. Then the other one is when you yearn for the mind of the Guru or enlightened mind, and these having experiences. Having experiences of emotions and so forth you're talking about, generally that doesn't seem to be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem, or that you need to try to discourage, obstruct. Of course, it would depend on what you recognize as the gross mind, what you recognize as enlightened mind. That would be important. But beyond that, and if you have the proper recognition or proper understanding of what you recognize as the gross mind or enlightened mind, and then if you recognize, given that you're recognizing properly and that you have experiences of emotions or whatever, doesn't seem to be in the way of problem, you see. And maybe what then in that context, given that this is the practice one can approach, in the context of what the question you're asking, therefore, given that this is the practice one can approach, then at that time more and more mixing one's mind with the Guru's mind, or resting in the inseparability of one's and one's Guru's mind.
I'm saying that on the path toward clarifying our point of view, I see that ultimately this path is not in my hands, and that ultimately this path is also not in the hands of the Guru. Yet there is activity of the dharmas that is generated. The way I experience it sometimes is that the dharmas are generating activity that I have nothing to do with. My question is, how is this activity generated? In the same sense that we could say,
How does this what?
what is this activity? How is it generated? Something is happening. In the same sense that the Buddha did not ultimately turn the third wheel of the Dharma, still the Dharmas come forth. And my question is, how is this activity happening?
Tulang kind this cell chedo las, right?
Tarduti.
Then tardukti, then tarduk teni lam the teni ngege lagwala mindus tamaro ge lagwal ji muro ge tene lam tene khan nyamne tong de medan mola mo la rawa mola mindus tene teme ge gebe shenye la yang mindus ra kan sna kona ti chö thamje kona 런신 다 틀린 양도 쭉 가는 지체냐 런신 그런 열심히스 티 열심히 된다 티 자와 런신 그때는 저렇게 직 비주도 한
그래.
티 힌두 테네 빠나 타도 그 찬에 샤와이나 선지 그냥 진 총고 숨바트 거는 요 말이스 다 선지 그때네
다래 되네야.
소매싱이 지어발테
데 가르레스 다.
티체도 테네 타 독치는 람데 먹을 이나 먹을 라발라 요 말에 몰라마 요 말에 테네 숨켄라 라마 요 말에 이나양 최지 틀림디 그런 자와데 테네 런시 테네 열심바 로심바 쪽심바 가이나 다티 테네 레 테네 티다 가는 종어레스입니다
다 뭐는 랍다. 저는 락발 매버티다. 근데 다 단다 트루베기 차리 단바 단다 트루베기 원래 때는 락발 요 말레스. 얘나양 저랑 그 줄을 데월식이 닝고 당 딱가서 시에버티 예벌 때네 때 죽되지 다 될 때는 죽되게 요레스. 다 지금 야마지 또도마스나 딕 레도지 될 때는 되게 요레스. 테레스. 아니 대인도 근데 단다 저랑 트루베기 원래 때네나 락발 멘두스나 인데 그래서 얘나양
람드면 라발 민두스 라마 민두스
디 트루벌 때네세. 트루벌 때네 민두스나 저랑 되게 그래서 대마도 때네 단다 락발 메신도 용되지 예버티 때네 테레스. 데월식이 닝고 요서.
가네요. 티 라발 메신도 양 예브티 민두스는 예tten 요레송 되어라.
데 가르선 데 대신이 뭐 예벌 때는 됐어.
So, maybe on the confused level, the path is, as you say, the path is not in your hand. You know, once one sees the path is not in one's hand on the confused level, yet the path is in one's hand, you see. So it must be the activity of the Buddha nature. While seeing the path is not in one's hand, the path is in one's hand. It must be the activity of the Buddha nature.
Yes. That.
The evidence of the discriminating wisdom, does it discriminate both the kunpat or the relative way that people see things and the emptiness nature, or does it discern just the emptiness nature?
가서.
Does the discriminating wisdom, does it discern both the relative nature of phenomena, the kunpat, and the emptiness nature, or does it discern just the emptiness nature?
대다 그 센스만.
이시세야 돼. 근데 군다 잠질라
테니 칸소르 테니 다
이시게
넬로 강인바티 동반이라 테데 테는 넬로 강인바티 테니 통와티 테니 소도기 티레다 메니 단다 칸소르다 전탐케라 넬로 강인바 메니 군족 넬로 강인바 통와티양 테니 칸소르다 펜저
군족네로 가임바 통화스도 간데세로
칸소르다 직
나와데
나와테 양 만노르바타 탄데 그런 직
니가레스
투몽기다 나와 지겨라
니가레스 니가테 제가 전담배 내로티 나와도 동번이가 송주들 될 통고요라 봤어 대체다 만데바 싸워 통세야 티마도 동번이 코나이나 데만데 통에 가면도 왔어 만데바 싸웠어
It's both. And
그래 니가 영국 인국어요
and it should be both. Quite obviously it should be both, because when we talk about nature of things are emptiness, then appearance is characteristic of emptiness, arising of appearance. So, and then the nature of appearance is emptiness.
제가 나와도 동반이 드니 bana kuning ganda meba tela da soso mande ba tongse tönda test.
So, discerning wisdom essentially is seeing no contradiction between appearance and emptiness. That the inseparability of appearance is emptiness. Experience of the wisdom of inseparability of emptiness and appearance is discerning wisdom. And so, if it is simply emptiness, then there is nothing to discern.
Is this the same discerning, the discerning wisdom in the five wisdoms? Is that the same discerning wisdom as the wisdom in the two knowledges? When we talk about discerning wisdom.
이신가티 누나 이신이 코스도요. 근데 제벌 자연도 이신이 제다와도 진이집에 이시세라바. 그 제벌 자연도 이신 알치기요.
Yes, elaborated five wisdom, and then put it together, the twofold wisdom or twofold knowledge.
야, 다 거의 다 돼.
Okay, last question, please.
Your Eminence, yesterday I asked a question about mental outlook. And part of the question that I have is kind of the difference between individual mental outlooks. Like you have an apple and two different people will look at it and one will see it as round and one will see it as oblong and one will see it as soft and one will see it as hard. And one will see it as small and one will see it as big. And it seems as though the skandhas have a shape and a form that relate to the five Buddha families. And I'm wondering what that relationship is, or how, and what the relationship with the five Buddha families is to emptiness.
Apple the five the family is.
나. 나.
Apple the 저링아 컨디션데 여러 is 거.
그래.
신도 구슐 저링아 컨디션 여러 쓰고 그래. 그래 거 봐.
나를.
하나?
다 지내라 지세면 거신 제가 전통 얘기.
그 컨디션.
tani ta 지금 나와 콜이 있을 때 뭐 제가 진짜 나와 콜을 했을 때는 단다 텔레테나 미스 때는
다 하고
그
있어.
통지를 serva tani 티 봉보 나와 태양 tani 다 간소리양 이밤 넘버 tani 다 만들어봐야 통네 야 단다 봉보스대야 오늘 직한다 고면도 직 그렇게 도덕하시 또
다 되네야.
나
되네.
대독스전 다 대대천데 양상계 링아다 제가 가요스는 다 가가처럼 있잖아 하고 말이
다 저디 가르스나 나랑 저
다른 안 되는 연구
저디 다 그런 나다. 저와 링아도 치 펜볼 자고 말했어.
나
치 펜볼 저와 링아 믹스 자고야 말했어. 나 셰발 되는 자고요 그랬어. 가르스나 되네 셰베게 되네 피치로 유르든 짐버 손자 되네 텔 자고요 그랬어. 다 야고질라 신다.
Buddha families. In applying the principles of the five Buddha families, we're not applying it to form. We're applying it to the mind that clings to the form. You see. So it is so in that way, it is you don't apply the five Buddhas to form. You apply it to the mind.
가나에서는 수그레 삼번쟁이리 셰베게 수그레 삼번쟁이요 말도 뱀버게 수기인다 가인 증이요 말 봤어.
So it is not matter that the or inanimate object that recognizes other animate objects. I mean, other inanimate objects. You know, it is consciousness that recognizes form. So, as existence of form is dependent to the recognition of mind.
Tisonzan tendes chidu jawa regna de tanda shingdol jaya tet kale khawdos.
So
Me khadu shena.
it's not clear what the question that you are asking, but His Eminence has some difficulty in applying the 5 Buddhas to the apple. What?
It's
Talking about apple outlook? Apple outlook?
no, it's to the outlook. The 5 wisdom is to the individual outlook.
Mm-hmm.
How this is so? How 2 outlooks can be effective?
So, how 2 outlooks can be effective? Huh? Different. What makes the difference? Tini nangtang mendawa ni di kanchin yongwa des ba kushu tele ya ta tidu ta kasin di chul beshan chusong ba ta kushu tare kushu le ya tini ta du tini kashi sop tong kashi tini ya chak tong kashi
되네.
go tong kashi jong tong tini chen ta yut tini ti che du ta ti tini nangtang tara mendawa yo ba nangtang mendawa nangju chigina ya nangtang mendawa ti 강을 땐 tini mendawa yonggo des
티
nangju kushu chig mendawa mare
티 칸에서나 티조 될 때는 누구요레스. 티손자다 티 넘버 통야 티 꾸슈 베나 쿠란을 때니 시종 때는 누구요 말바다 샘게 나올 때는 누구요 바스. 티손자 샘 딜라 티 다른 시에베 티는 시레 군시레 뉴이레 티니 남시레 담에나 망부지소 현조 테네 다 장고요레스.
oh yes that when you see an apple, then even given that the apple in itself exists, given we'll entertain the existence of the apple, and given that you perceive the apple based on your belief context, conceptual belief context. So, and the conceptual belief context with which you perceive or through which you have the outlook depends on the what different conditioning, and what more predominant, less predominant conditioning the alaya has gone through or accumulated. The alaya consciousness, therefore, has accumulated based on that. And so the way you see the apple, the way you see is not because of the apple, but because of your belief context and your the concept of reality you have.
Yeah, that whole one's true.
Okay, we'll have more questions this afternoon.
So,